passer rating. We're talking about passer rating, Patrick. I'm Iain McKinnon. This is the WINFL show. I'm here with Patrick Jackson. Now, Patrick, before the invention of PFF grades, which, as we know, is the worst way to grade anyone, ask the players themselves, and they're like, no. They take more interest in their Madden grades than they do in their PFF grades. And that tells you everything you need to know about PFF. Okay?
Absolutely.
But we're not talking about PFF. We're talking about the initial grading system, which is the passer rating. And it's awful. So what I've done, Patrick, is I fixed passer rating. And when I say fixed, I mean like properly, this is fixed. The NFL should just adopt this straight away. Okay? So before I go into my formula for calculating passer rating, what I'm going to do is read out the current passer rating, because there's two things we know about it. One, it's rubbish, and two, it's so overly convoluted. So I'm going to tell you the current system for rating passers, Patrick, and then I'll get your opinion on it. So, taking this from, I just took this from Wikipedia, okay? The NFL passer rating formula includes 5 variables. Nothing wrong with that. Pass attempts, completions, passing yards, touchdown passes, and interceptions. It's the 5 big ones for a quarterback, okay? Now, this is where it gets weird. Each of those variables is scaled to a value between 0 and 2.375.
Very specific.
Very specific. Now, there is a reason for this, because 1.0, was being statistically average based on league data between 1960 and 1970. So this is why they've come up with 2.375 being the top number. Now, as you already know, that's slightly outdated. The passers in 60s and the 1960s.
Well, they were pre-Super Bowl era.
Pre-Super Bowl era. Okay, so when the formula was created, a 66.7 rating indicated an average performance, and a 100 plus rating indicated an excellent performance. However, passing performance has improved steadily since then, and in 2017, the league average rating was 88.6, and by 2020, it was 93.6. In just 3 years, it had jumped up by 5%. Okay? Or 5 points. This isn't a percentage. Points. So, there are 4 separate... This is going to take a while. There are 4 separate calculations which can be expressed in the following equations. So, there's 4 calculations, and each calculation has an equation to get to that calculation. A. Completions divided by attempts minus 0.3 for some reason, and then take all of that and multiply it by 5. Okay? You're with me? Stay with me. Stay with me. Then you have B, part 2. Yards divided by attempts minus 3 for some reason, and take all of that and multiply it by 0.25 for some reason. You then have C, this is the third equation, touchdowns divided by attempts times 20. For no reason, don't know why, but there you go. And then D, the last one, 2.375 minus, in brackets, interceptions divided by attempts times 25. So those are the 4 equations to give you your 4 numbers, okay? Now, it doesn't end there. If the result of any calculation is greater than 2.375, it is brought down to 2.375. And if the result is, yeah, exactly. Now, if the result is a negative number, it is set to 0 for some reason.
Oh,
Then, we're not done. Then, the above calculations are used to complete the passer rating. So this is the big boy now. This equation, passer rating equals A plus B plus C plus D, divide by 6 for some reason, and then multiply by 100.
What?
That is how passer rating is worked out. And this is the reason that a perfect passer rating, as they call it, equals 158.3. It requires at least a 77.5 completion percentage, 12.5 yards per attempt, 11.875% touchdown to attempts, and 1 touchdown every 8.421 attempts with no interceptions. Now, the lowest passer rating you can get, as we all know, is 0. Anyone who's watched Jaguar Gator 9 knows fine well that people who have had multiple interceptions in a game, and he said that's a worse passer rating than if you spiked the ball on every play. So, in order to get a minimum rating of 0.0 requires 30% completion percentage or less, 3.0 yards per attempt or less, no touchdowns, and 9.5% interceptions to attempts. So 1 interception every 10.526 attempts. Now, Patrick, I just want to get your quick thoughts on the current formula for working out passer rating between 0 and 158.3.
Yeah, I was thinking back to my applied statistics course I did, and you're right, it's overly complicated. I like the fact at least that it's based on empirically measurable statistics. There's no points added over expected and stuff like that where you're just guessing extra numbers. But the fudge factors to make the weights for the different elements, I don't like that because that seems really arbitrary. Like they're clearly prioritizing completion percentage over yards because the completion percentage multiplier was much bigger than the yards multiplier. So if you're completing a load of short passes, that will benefit you a lot more on your passer rating than if you're completing a few deep passes, which could get you the same overall production.
Yes.
So that's interesting. And you see that reflected in your more game management type quarterbacks having that higher level. But you're right. And the arbitrary capping at the bottom and the top really reduces your range. So you just get this kind of quantized effect where you can't stretch out the worst performers and the best performers. It just caps out. So that's a weakness in the current system, definitely.
It is. So, Patrick, I have fixed passer rating.
I'm delighted.
But before I tell you my formula, the last 3 perfect passer ratings, Jalen Hurts versus Minnesota 2025, the last one, he went 19 of 23, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns. Perfect passer rating. Jared Goff versus Jacksonville, 2024, went 24 of 29, 412 yards, 4 touchdowns. Perfect passer rating. And Lamar Jackson versus the Broncos, 2024, went 16 of 19, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns. Okay? Now, they're all, according to this formula, perfect games for a quarterback. Not in my opinion. They are not perfect games for a quarterback. So, I have come up with a formula so much simpler that basically goes 0 to 100. It is possible to get over 100. It's also possible to get a negative rating. Okay? So, it's very simple formula. It is completion percentage plus yards per attempt plus touchdown percentage minus interception percentage. And then in order to make it all nice and lovely, everything is multiplied by a number that I came up with, 0.8. So, to get a perfect passer rating of what I'm calling a perfect passer rating of 100. An example would be a quarterback goes 19 of 20, so it's a 95% completion percentage. 200 yards, so it's 10 yards per attempt. 4 touchdowns, which is a 20% touchdown percentage, and 0 interceptions, would give him a rating of 100. Okay? Now, if someone went crazy, and I'm talking like record-breaking crazy, and went 20 of 20 for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns and no picks, his rating would be 120. That's just the way it would work out. And this brings me to the 3 perfect passer rating that we had. Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, and Lamar Jackson. Because in my calculations, the lowest rating of those would be Jalen Hurts. I'll remind you, 19 of 23, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns. So his yards per attempt were 14.1. His touchdown percentage was 13.0. Gives him a rating of 87.86 in my system. Because to me, if you're going to have a perfect game, you need to have a perfect game.
Yeah.
And it's not it's close, it's really good, but it's not perfect. Jared Goff would come second. 24 of 29, which is 82.76%. 412 yards, which is 14.2 yards per attempt. 4 touchdowns, which is 13.8%. Gives him a rating of 88.61. And Lamar Jackson would actually come out on top. 16 of 19, 84.21% completion. 280 yards is 14.74. And his touchdown percentage of 3 is 15.8, giving him a rating of 91.79%. And these are percentages.
Yeah.
However, if a quarterback went 0 out of 10, no yards, no touchdowns, and threw 1 interception, he would have a rating of -8. Because if you are affecting your team negatively, you should have a negative passer rating. Why is the guy who goes 3 of 10 for 29 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, have a 0 rating, and a guy who goes 0 of 50, 0 yards, 10 interceptions, has a rating of 0? It makes no sense. So that is my equation. Completion percentage plus yards per attempt plus touchdown percentage minus interception percentage, everything times 0.8. What do you think of that?
I think it makes a lot more sense. It's bad news for Kendall Hinton, but it makes sense to have, you're not weighting the different elements arbitrarily, so that's all evened out as the one multiplied by 0.8, but that's just to get it on a nicer scale for people.
That's just to get the 19 of 20 to 100. So I'll give you one drop, in your perfect. I'll give you one drop. A guy drops a pass. I've lost my.
Yeah.
You'll get that perfect pass rating 100. But it is possible in my equation to go over 100. It's possible. You'd need to shatter records to do it. And it's definitely possible to get a negative rating if you've thrown a bunch of interceptions.
Yeah, so you've got better definition at the top end and the bottom end, and you're teasing out those 158.3 gains in a logical sequence that breaks down sensibly. Obviously, the next task is to find out the best DOSA passer rating in NFL history for a random stat.
Do you know, I'll have to do that. So this will be the WINFL passer rating. When we do each week's review in the 2026 season, each quarterback will be assigned a WINFL passer rating, not the NFL passer rating. I mean, we can mention the NFL passer rating if you want, but they'll be assigned a WINFL passer rating. Formula will be on the screen for anyone who wants to look at it. If anyone disagrees with it, feel free to put that in the comments and give me your opinion on a better version of how to rate a passer. And this is not QBR, We're not quarterback rating. We're not taking into account rushing, yards and touchdowns, anything like that. And what is the EPA thing again, Patrick?
Oh, expected points added or something. Yeah, it's
expected. But I mean,
guesstimated points added, but we can't say guesstimated.
I can't say guesstimate. So there you are. We have now officially fixed passer rating for the 2026 NFL season. NFL need to take note of this video and note of that formula, ditch the old one, because no offense to the guys who created it, it was done through the 60s. So it's clearly out of date the way the game has evolved, but the formula hasn't. And secondly, there's too many numbers just thrown in because someone thought, that's a good idea, let's go with that. I've got one number, and it's just to make it all nice. 0.8. There you go. Fixed passer rating.
What's your fee to license it to Roger Goodell? Like 50p a quarterback a game?
I don't know, actually. I'll need to think about that. I'll need to write up a formula for my fee.
Make sure you get enough to pay for your DAZN subscription for the season.
There you go. That would be it. 3 DAZN DAZN, stupid name. 3 DAZN subscriptions for the guys in the WINFL show. That'll be my fee. There we go. That's it. That is passer rating officially fixed. Unless someone could come up with a hole in my system, then we've done it. Patrick, what do you make of that?
Flawless improvement. It's what we needed.
Thank you very much. Now, we are going to be doing our podcast next week. Back to our podcast. It's going to be our way too early power rankings. Ridiculously early. Stupid early predictions. And then we're going to be taking a 3-week break. And then we are diving right into our divisional deep dives, Patrick. Starting with the AFC East. Are you looking forward to that?
Very much so. Great. We'll get some good guests on. Have a good chat. It's going to be excellent.
It certainly is. Thank you once again to Mr. Patrick Jackson. Thank you, Patrick.
Pleasure as always.
And thank you to everyone watching at home. And we'll see you on next week's edition of the WINFL Show.
And we're clear.